I begin this morning with a point of privilege to discuss the elephant in the room, and that is the horrific and awful atrocities that have happened in our nation just in the last 2 weeks. What has occurred follows a pattern that is both horrific and completely and totally unacceptable. I appreciate and have been following the comments of all of my colleagues over the last week since the terrible incidents in Buffalo, where all of them reaffirmed that we as a community do not stand for this violence. But just last night, as I was putting my kids to bed, one of them, we've been trying to shield from some of this information because we felt he was too young to be able to process it, had heard about it through friends. And he asked me if it would be safe to go to school today. And of course, as a dad, as a parent, I assured him that everybody was doing everything to make sure that he and children around this country are safe, and that elementary school is a safe place for him to be able to play and see his friends. But candidly, in the back of my mind, like a cancer growing, I find myself increasingly not knowing whether with 100% degree of confidence I can assure that that is the case. We have a pandemic of growing and epic proportions in our community that is related to gun violence, and it has gotten to a point where we as a nation have to come together. This is not a Republican issue. This is not a Democratic issue. This is a humanity issue. This council last year enacted legislation at the local level through a zone text amendment, because it's the only thing we had at our disposal, to curb the sale of ghost guns in our community. And the General Assembly, thanks to their leadership, has passed that at the state level. Yet in a recent meeting, I found out from our chief of police that this year alone, more than 100 ghost guns have already been confiscated this year, as compared to 70 all of last year, and we are less than 6 months into this new calendar year. We can pass all the legislation that we want. We can attend every rally available, but until our federal partners and states across this country recognize this plague that is upon us, there is only so much we can do. And so, rather than a moment of silence, which feels completely inadequate right now, I'm calling for a moment of action. But more importantly than that, I'm calling for a movement of action, and I want all of us to join the respective organizations, such as the Brady Campaign, which now for generations has been fighting this fight, such as Moms Demand Action, which has done an extraordinary job coordinating across our entire country. And I ask every resident to please visit theirs and the websites of other organizations that are actively engaged and involved in this space. There's a rally being planned in Washington, D.C., and we as Washingtonians have a unique opportunity and frankly obligation to commit to ensuring that after this awful wave of violence, and the fact that our minds and our brains only allow us to process so much, within a few days we'll be moving on to the next crisis, the next challenge. But until this stops, we cannot stop. We cannot be tired. We must be engaged in ensuring that we do everything humanly possible to make sure that my son and every child in this country does not have to wonder or worry about going to school. So thank you, colleagues, for your continued leadership. Thank you to our community for your continued commitment. Thank you to our federal delegation for the fight that you are fighting. But obviously, a lot more needs to be done. So thank you all very much. I felt like somebody had to say something. And I know all of us are saying everything.